Japan shook again today, and this time it hit in a place people never forget. Off the coast of northeastern Japan, near Miyagi and Iwate, a powerful earthquake struck at about 8:22 p.m. local time on May 15th. The United States Geological Survey measured it at magnitude 6.7. Japan's weather agency reported it lower, around magnitude 6.3. But either way, the shaking was strong enough to get attention fast. Emergency alerts went out. People felt the ground move across parts of northern Honshu, and for a few moments, everyone along that coast remembered exactly where they were standing. Because this is not just any coastline, this is northeastern Japan, the same broad region that has seen some of the most powerful and terrifying earthquakes in modern history. The quake struck offshore, near the coast of Miyagi and Iwate, at a depth of roughly 43 to 50 kilometers. That depth matters, because deeper earthquakes can shake a wider area, but they are also less likely to throw the ocean floor upward in the same way a shallow offshore quake can. That may be one reason officials said there was no immediate tsunami risk from today's quake. But in Japan, when the ground moves offshore, people listen, because they know what the ocean can do. The shaking was rated around a lower 5 on Japan's seismic intensity scale in some areas. That is not just something you barely feel. That is the kind of shaking where dishes rattle, lights swing, phones scream with alerts, people pause mid-sentence, and the room suddenly feels like it is no longer attached to the ground. In parts of Miyagi, including areas like Tome, Osaki, and Ishinomaki, the shaking was strong enough to register serious concern. And Ishinomaki is a name that carries weight, because that region still remembers 2011. The disaster that changed how the entire world thinks about earthquakes and tsunamis. So when another strong offshore quake hits near northeastern Japan, even without a tsunami warning, the fear comes back fast. But today's earthquake did not happen in isolation. That is what makes this story feel even more unsettling, because less than a month ago, on April 20th, a much larger earthquake struck off the northeastern coast of Japan. That quake was reported around magnitude 7.4 to 7.7. Depending on the agency and update. It happened off the Sanriku coast, a region already watched closely because of the Japan Trench and the massive tectonic forces pressing beneath the Pacific. That April quake triggered tsunami warnings. Coastal towns issued evacuation orders. People moved to higher ground. Bullet trains were disrupted. Highways were temporarily closed, and officials warned residents along parts of the northeastern coastline to stay alert. In the end, the tsunami waves were smaller than feared. Some waves were measured below 1 meter. There were no immediate reports of catastrophic damage, but the warning itself mattered, because Japan does not treat offshore earthquakes like background noise, not in this region, not after what has happened there before. And now, today's magnitude 6.7 quake hit the same broader part of northeastern Japan's offshore earthquake zone. Not the exact same event, not proof of one giant chain reaction, but close enough in time, and close enough in geography, to make people look at the map differently. Because the earth under Japan is never still. Japan sits along the Pacific Ring of Fire, where oceanic plates dive beneath the edge of the continent. The Pacific Plate is being forced downward. Stress builds, faults lock. Pressure stores silently beneath the ocean, and then, without warning, the crust slips. Sometimes it releases as a smaller tremor. Sometimes it hits as a strong quake. Sometimes it becomes the kind of event that changes history. That is why this area is watched so closely. Not because every earthquake means disaster is coming, but because every earthquake is part of a much larger system, a system that does not stop moving. Today's quake caused no immediate tsunami warning according to early reports. No major damage or injuries were immediately reported, but the response shows how serious this region is. Emergency warnings were issued across multiple prefectures. Rail systems were checked. People waited for updates, and scientists began looking at the data. Depth, location, intensity. aftershock potential, and whether this quake fits into the recent pattern of shaking along northeastern Japan. Because this region has been active, in December of last year, a strong earthquake off northern Japan also shook the region and caused tsunami concerns. Then April brought the larger offshore quake. Now May brings another strong event. One quake does not predict the next, but repeated shaking along a major subduction zone always gets attention, and the reason is simple. The ocean floor off Japan is one of the most powerful earthquake machines on Earth. Most of the time, people do not feel what is building underneath it. They go to work, they ride trains, they walk along the coast, they sleep in cities built beside one of the most active tectonic boundaries on the planet. And then, suddenly, the phone alert hits. The floor moves, the walls creak, the train stops, and everyone remembers. The ground under Japan is alive. The scary part about earthquakes is that they do not begin when people feel them. The pressure starts long before, deep below the seafloor, far beyond where anyone can see, locked between plates, stored in rock, building quietly for months, years, sometimes decades. Then one night, at 8:22 p.m., the silence breaks. Today's Japan earthquake may not have produced a tsunami. It may not have caused major damage in the first reports, but it is still a reminder. The same coastline that has seen tragedy before is still moving. The same offshore trenches are still active. The same plates are still grinding, and scientists will keep watching for aftershocks, for changes along the fault zone, and for any sign that the pressure offshore is shifting again. Because in Japan, the most important warning is not always the disaster itself. Sometimes it is the pattern. A strong quake in April, another strong quake in May, emergency alerts, train disruptions, coastal communities paying attention, and one of the most watched earthquake zones on Earth shaking again. For earthquake tracking, severe weather alerts, volcano updates, and real-time Earth event stories, go to StormScapes.xyz, because sometimes the ground moves once, and sometimes it is reminding us what is still building underneath.